Welcome to the Double Post Podcast with me, Brent Hammer, and Eddie Glenn Jr. This week, where we tackle everything football, we tackle the NFL. And first off, we're going to talk about one of the biggest headlines going into the season, Le'Veon Bell, who did not sign his franchise tag, which was $14 million.
$14 million is what the Steelers were trying to force him to sign. And, of course, we all know Le'Veon Bell, probably the best running back in all of football, saying, no way, Jose, I want something in the hundreds of $1 million.
Yeah, so he didn't sign that tag, so he decided to somewhat take the year off and wait until he could get the contract that he wanted, and
like you said,
then he would be healthy.
Take the year off. He's down in Miami having fun, hanging out with rappers, jet skiing, and enjoying the weather, kicking his feet up.
So the Steelers already had a big problem going into the season, losing one of their, if not the best player on their offense, which produced a lot of points for them and actually turned out good for them as backup James Conner, who they drafted the year prior, turned out to be a really, really good starting running back this year.
And how about James Conner ended up being diagnosed with cancer when he was at Pitt and had to sit out a year, recovered, came back, showed out at Pitt, got drafted by the Steelers, and got drafted to a team where no one really thought he would play because of Le'Veon Bell, but got lucked up and put into a situation where the best running back in the NFL decided he didn't want to play, and James Conner's taken every opportunity and ran with it.
And like you said, the best running back in the league right now. We'll move on to the best quarterback in the league right now, Patrick Mahomes, who is a second-year quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is leading this Kansas City team to an unbelievable 9-2 record right now, putting up the top two in scoring by himself and is in the running for an MVP right now.
And Patrick Mahomes, a young guy right now, absolutely on fire. He's got all kinds of offensive weapons. He's got Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce, and he's got Kareem Hunt back there carrying the load. So he has an amazing abundance of talent back there. And I agree with everything you said except one thing. He's not the best quarterback in the league.
Who do you think is the best quarterback in the league?
I definitely think there's two guys, but the top guy right now, Drew Brees, old man down in New Orleans. You can't beat him. You can't beat him.
You cannot. He's in his late 30s, still wheeling and dealing.
Drew Brees in his late 30s, like you said, acting like he's LeBron James, putting up all kinds of points every week, making good teams look bad regularly. And, really the only true loss that he's had this year has been against the Rams. The Rams, great defense, so hard to beat, but Drew Brees, he's the best quarterback in the league right now.
Who would you say is number two?
Number two, got to go with 5 rings Brady.
5 rings.
Tom Brady, reliable. Reliable.
You cannot go wrong with 5 Super Bowl rings.
But I definitely think Patrick Mahomes, definitely think he's up there, number 3. Definitely top 5 if he's not number 3, but Patrick Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback in all of football one day, probably in the next 5 years.
So moving on now to, as you were saying, the Saints having a really, really, really good season. Only one loss on the year, coming week 1 against the Bucs, which we all remember. Ryan Fitzpatrick came out of the gate hot. Free agent signed in to be a backup. Jameis Winston was suspended, and he came out 400 yards, 5 touchdowns in week 1, and started the nickname Fitzmagic. And gave the Saints their only blemish on their roster, as they're now 10-1 on the season. Eddie, what do you think about the Saints? Do you think they have a legit shot at the Super Bowl?
I do, and I think there's almost nothing that can stop the Saints this year. They almost made it to the Super Bowl last year, and this year I don't think there's anything that's going to hold them back in the NFC from winning. I think the Rams are going to give them a push, but I don't know if we saw the Rams offense keep up with the Chiefs offense in that great Monday Night Football Classic, which is going to go down as probably one of the best regular season games ever. But I just don't know, can Jared Goff keep up? Can he keep up throwing wise with Drew Brees? And I just don't know. Drew Brees and that high powered Saints offense they're on a roll.
And in fact, they are. And talking about a team on the roll and then a team that's struggling right now, the New York Giants, who have one of, if not the best receiver in all of football. Odell Beckham Jr. signed a massive $100 million contract extension, and you don't pay a receiver that much money and he's not good. And then they drafted Saquon Barkley, number 2 overall, one of the best running backs that college football has ever seen. He's an absolute freak of nature, can jump over you, run past you, or run over you, whichever one that he decides. And it's just not working out for the Giants this year.
And the Giants have a decision to make. Their O-line is pathetic and has been. Eli Manning is aging and not in a good way. And then that defense, they have shown some good times. They've seen some better times headed by Landon Collins and Snacks Harrison down on the front, in the front 9 down there. They have some good pieces, but I think because their offense is doing so bad, it kind of reflects on them as well. But the Giants have some decisions to make in the offseason and into the draft. Do they draft a quarterback like Will Grier or Justin Hubert, or do they go offensive line? Because they're going to have a top pick.
Yeah, they are. A team that's not going to have a top pick, the LA Rams, who are one of the most explosive offenses right now, tied with the Saints and the Chiefs, all just offensive powerhouses. The Rams led by Jared Goff and MVP candidate Todd Gurley, and then some unknown receivers, really. They have Brandon Cooks, who is known around the league but not a superstar receiver, but has all these pieces around Goff who just helps him succeed. And Jared Goff, a successful quarterback at the University of California 3 years ago when he was the first overall pick coming out, and then just making it work as Sean McVay, the youngest head coach in the league, is showing a little brass in his pocket, just giving Goff the reins to just do whatever he wants, calling audibles, and it's working out for him, averaging almost 40 a game.
And Sean McVay, a quarterback coach, I think that was the best move the Rams made in the offseason, especially getting rid of Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher was really holding the Rams back because Jared Goff was looking like a bust there early on. As you know, it was between him and Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz really pulled away early on, and the roles have kind of flip-flopped now, where Jared Goff looks like an MVP candidate, and Carson Wentz, ever since the injury, hasn't really been the same. But Sean McVay, like you said, really taking this team to the next level, and it's going to come down in the NFC Championship to the Rams and the Saints.
I agree with that. I really do. Going back to what you said about Tom Brady and 5 rings and he being one of the top quarterbacks in the league, if not all time, he recently set the record for the most passing yards in NFL history, over 79,000 yards.
It's crazy.
Just imagine the mileage, if you converted that, the yards to mileage. That's just him throwing the ball. It's just really unbelievable because he's in his early 40s, and just it's kind of like wine. He gets better over time, which is really weird because quarterbacks are the most important position in the game.
And they don't typically age well.
No, they do not.
We see that going on with Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger and even Eli Manning. Quarterbacks don't typically age well. Brady and Breeze are starting to be like the new bunch of older quarterbacks that are playing well, but outside of them two, quarterbacks do not age well. But like you said, Brady, a freak of nature in his own right. Maybe not athletically like Saquon Barkley, but he doesn't have, you look at his team, he doesn't have any outside wide, no true number 1 wide receiver. You think of a true number 1 receiver, you think Julio Jones or Odell Beckham, or
someone who can make plays.
Right, or Randy Moss that he used to have, but all of his receivers are under 6 foot tall, pretty much 6'1" and under, and he's making it happen out there. 79,000 yards in his career is absolutely ridiculous.
And he's still going. We don't even know if he's going to retire after this year, if he's got 2 or 3 more years in the tank. And that number could get well over 80,000 into, I wouldn't go into the 90s, but the higher, maybe mid to high 80s if he has a really good year. He doesn't throw for 5,000 yards consistently like Drew Brees does, which is why Drew Brees is one of the top known quarterbacks.
Drew Brees is 4th on that list, by the way. He's
creeping up.
He's every time Brady catches a record, Breeze is right there, right behind him. A week or two late, he'll catch him as well.
And talking about Breeze, he did break the touchdown record all time, which he does have that on Brady. But with Drew Brees, it's just incredible seeing these two older and seasoned veterans just go back and forth each week and just one outdoing the other. And then, Eddie, talking next about our favorite team, not being the Panthers, yours being the Jets. Little flip-flopping.
Well, speaking on the Jets, and you said Tom Brady broke that all-time passing yards mark, and he did do it against the Jets, and the Jets also so happen to be the team to give Tom Brady his chance at NFL glory way back in the day, where he was just a backup. And ever since then, everybody in the NFL has absolutely hated the Jets for that. But the Jets, like you said, not doing too well, but rookie quarterback Sam Darnold has had his ups and downs, as you would expect any rookie to have. But he's definitely shown some promise for the future, for this future Jet team.
Yeah, he has some flashes here and there. And I think he will be one of the better quarterbacks out of the draft. And moving to my team, the Carolina Panthers, we are slowly slipping our chances of making the playoffs within the wild card spot. Going on a win streak, then dropping off for a few games, skid, and then going back on another win streak, and now we're currently on a 3-game losing streak, so hopefully we can get back up on the winning wave so we can make the playoffs as the season is winding down. Cam Newton, our starting quarterback, is really settling in now. He's making smart decisions. He still has a little hiccup here and there, but it's just because he's trying to make a play,
right,
and all. And then Graham Gano, who has been extremely great all year up until of late, hitting a 63-yard game winner against the Giants. And then the last 2 weeks, he's just missed kicks that have been really coming down in the clutch. And
I think going along with your Panthers, and we talk about young players, DJ Moore is a piece that's going to be good for you guys. I definitely think you guys should have went the route of drafting Calvin Ridley instead of DJ Moore. But either way, he's proven to be good. Like you said, with any rookie, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But I think the Panthers have to get Cam Newton another big-time receiver.
I agree.
Just because Cam Newton's such a threat. You never know if he's going to throw for 300 or throw for 200 and run for 100 or just run for 200. Cam Newton's such a big-time threat back there throwing the ball that I think the Panthers, if they could get one more big-time receiver, that'll push you guys over the hump.
Yeah. And talking about rookies, we go to the Browns. Number 1 overall pick, Baker Mayfield, who is really coming onto the scene as of late ever since being named the starter, won the Browns their first game in over 2 years.
Against the Jets.
Against the Jets, unfortunately. But 2 years without a win, and a rookie quarterback comes in and brings home the win on Thursday night primetime.
And think about that. Baker Mayfield, think about his journey. He was a walk-on.
Twice,
a 2-time walk-on. And then everybody doubted him in the draft. I even had my doubts about him playing in the NFL in the draft. He gets drafted number 1 overall. The Browns still bring in Tyrod Taylor, who's not a pushover quarterback by any means.
Very solid quarterback.
Ended up, Tyrod Taylor gets the start. Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. Baker Mayfield comes in, beats the Jets. Hugh Jackson's fired now. Everything's going the right way for Baker Mayfield because Bruce Arians is looking at that job as the head coach for the Browns.
And Baker Mayfield, first ever walk-on to win the Heisman, which you go from barely making the team, no scholarship, getting to a starting quarterback, okay, that's good, but then you're great, and then become immortalized in college football with a Heisman Trophy, which is the highest honor that you can receive in college football. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Double Post podcast. And stay tuned. We'll probably come out with more episodes here in the future.
In the weeks to come, we'll come out with probably a pre-playoff prediction episode, a triple P episode, pre-playoff prediction episode, and then a Super Bowl prediction, and then we can move into some other sports. But definitely stay tuned for the weeks to come.